The accidentalists would have us believe that ascribing any of our problems to planning is simplistic, and all our problems are caused by poverty, ignorance, and disease, hereinafter abbreviated as PID. Real and imagined as an excuse to build a jail for us all. Most of the world has been on PID since time immemorial, and it takes incredibly superficial thinking to ascribe the ricocheting of the United States government from one disaster to another over the past 30 years to PID. Accidentalists ignore the fact that some of the more advanced nations in the world have been captured by communists. Czechoslovakia was one of the world's most modern industrial nations, and Cuba had the second highest per capita income of any nation in Central and South America. It is not true, however, to state that there are no members of the intellectual elite who subscribe to the conspiratorial theory of history. For example, there is Professor Carroll Quigley of the Foreign Service School at Georgetown University. Professor Quigley can hardly be accused of being a right-wing extremist. Those three words have been made inseparable by the mass media. Dr. Quigley has all the liberal credentials, having taught at the liberal establishment's academic meccas of Princeton and Harvard. In his 1,300-page, 8-pound tome, Tragedy and Hope, Dr. Quigley reveals the existence of the conspiratorial network which will be discussed in this book. The professor is not merely formulating a theory, but revealing this network's existence from first-hand experience. He also makes it clear that it is only the network's secrecy and not their goals to which he objects. Professor Quigley discloses, I know of the operations of this network because I have studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years in the early 1960s to examine its papers and secret records. I have no aversion to it or to most of its aims, and have for much of my life been close to it and to many of its instruments. I have objected both in the past and recently to a few of its policies, but in general, my chief difference of opinion is that it wishes to remain unknown. And I believe its role in history is significant enough to be known. Now, some of you critics might at this time who still believe that everything's an accident, you might be thinking, why are you reading a book about it if there's a conspiracy? Why would there be a book? And I'll tell you why. Because they want those of us who are smart enough to try to discover what is going on, they want us to know, those of us that are smart enough to read these things and understand them, they want us to know how high the pyramid goes. They want us to know how helpless we are against them. That is the reason for books like these.
And part of it is, like you read before, the absurdity part. They want to stretch out the conspiracy so much that sounds absurd. So part of it is allowing this book to be published because they think some people would take it as absurd.
There's so much fringe material about the subject. And, the subject of who's in charge, who is the elite who controls everything. People spin it off into outer space, it's aliens, and they spin it off underground. It's the troglodytes who live underground and control what's going on Earth because, I don't know, they're allergic to the sun or something. But anyway, yeah, the absurdity is rampant. That's why we're starting with this, because it's pretty concise, even though whoever wrote it, they had an agenda and they were allowed to write it for a reason. It's a pretty good nutshell of just the recent history of the people who control the world. Okay. We agree its role in history does deserve to be known. That is why he's talking about Carroll Quigley believes that the conspiracy's role in history deserves to be known by everyone. And of course, when everyone's ready to know, they'll let everyone know. This is just a part of it. In the 60s, this book, and every other book, a documentary, or every word that's been spoken about it, is an effort, because the conspiracy people, they're externalizing themselves. Whereas before, they've been behind the scenes for a long, long time. But now they've got mankind and mankind's consciousness enough enslaved. It's just, and these are strange times we're living in, folks. It's just going to be over the past 100 years and the next 100 years, you're going to see them expose themselves, because there's nothing you can do about it anymore. There used to be human beings could do something about it, but we've reached the point we can't. So they're externalizing themselves. They want us to know. They want us to know they're in charge. So, we agree its role in history does deserve to be known. That is why we have written this book. However, we most emphatically disagree with this network's aim, which the professor describes as nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. In other words, this power-mad clique wants to control and rule the world. Even more frightening, they want total control over all individual actions. Is this good or bad? If this is their aim? That's a little bit simplified description of the elite's aim. But is that good or bad? We don't know yet. As Professor Quigley observes, the individual's freedom and choice will be controlled within very narrow alternatives by the fact that he will be numbered from birth and followed as a number through his educational training, his required military or other public service, his tax contributions, his health and medical requirements, and his final retirement and death benefits. It wants control over all natural resources, business, banking, and transportation by controlling the governments of the world. In order to accomplish these aims, the conspirators have had no qualms about fomenting wars, depressions, and hatreds. They want a monopoly which would eliminate all competitors and destroy the free enterprise system. And Professor Quigley of Harvard, Princeton, and Georgetown approves. Well, I approve to a certain extent too, whoever's writing this. Because look, that's the way intelligence goes. One intelligence dominates another. And there's no benevolent old gentleman in the sky that's going to save you. So, continuing on. Professor Quigley is not the only academic who is aware of the existence of a clique of self-perpetuating conspirators, whom we shall call the insiders. Other honest scholars, finding the same individuals at the scenes of disastrous political fires over and over again, have concluded that there is obviously an organization of pyromaniacs at work. But these intellectually honest scholars realize that if they challenge the insiders head-on, their careers will be destroyed. The author knows these men exist because he has been in contact with some of them. There are also religious leaders who are aware of the existence of this conspiracy. In a UPI story dated December 27, 1965, Father Pedro Arrupe, head of the Jesuit Order of the Roman Catholic Church, made the following charges during his remarks in the Ecumenical Council. This godless society operates in an extremely efficient manner, at least in its higher levels of leadership. It makes use of every possible means at its disposal, be they scientific, technical, social, or economic. It follows a perfectly mapped out strategy. It holds almost complete sway in international organizations, in financial circles, in the field of mass communications, press, cinema, radio, and television. There are a number of problems to be overcome in the convincing a person of the possible existence of a conspiratorial clique of insiders who, from the very highest levels, manipulate government policy. In this case, truth is really stranger than fiction. We are dealing with history's greatest whodunit, a mystery thriller which puts Earl Stanley Gardner to shame. Whoever that was. If you love a mystery, you'll be fascinated with the study of the operations of the insiders. If you do study this network of which Professor Quigley speaks, you will find that what had at first seemed incredible not only exists, but heavily influences our lives. It must be remembered that the first job of any conspiracy, whether it be in politics, crime, or within a business office, is to convince everyone else that no conspiracy exists. The conspirators' success will be determined largely by their ability to do this. That the elite of the academic world and mass communications media always poo-poo the existence of insiders merely serves to camouflage their operations. These artists hide the boy and the cart and the donkey.
Okay, that's good for now.